My boss is the absolute definition of a jerk, a low-life dog. He said he would promote me under one condition, and you guys can't even fathom what it is. If you're thinking it, yeah, you're probably right. I'm going to get into it, but let me just say, when I told him absolutely not, I'm not that type of woman, you know what he says? He literally says, that's fine. You'll just never reach anything higher than your position. So you know what? I'm thinking of one word: blackmail. I'm Cassie. I love my job. I do want to keep working in my company, but every day it's looking more and more like I won't be able to work here anymore. All because of my disgusting boss, Pat. Let me explain what's going on. From the time I started college, I realized that I was a bit different than my friends. At that point, I was sure about what I wanted to do in life. I'd already made plans on how I could achieve my goals. But I also don't think there's anything wrong with not knowing what you want to do at that point. Many of my friends did not, and sometimes you just need more time to figure it out. But let me also tell you, knowing it all early on is a big help. Because I was so sure about my future. I didn't have much trouble finding the right jobs I needed for the right experience, but I had one problem, which is my parents. Believe me, this is important. My parents did not like me working and building a long career. That's because they wanted me to get married by 26, and I'm 28, unmarried. So you probably already know where this is going. I honestly can't tell you why they wanted me to marry young. 26 is an absurd age to get married in this day and age. Whenever I asked about it, they just told me they wanted me to start a family early. They were more than happy to help me settle down. All they needed was for me to find a good person to get married to. I told them early on that I didn't need their help and wanted to do it on my own. But my parents didn't like that. They wanted me to do whatever they wanted. But when they found out they could not control me, they were not happy. When I kept focusing on my career, they gave me an ultimatum to either listen to them or get cut off. I've not spoken to them since, and I do love my parents still and miss them, but I cannot let them make my life decisions. They told me that I had not achieved anything in my life, and that's why they didn't respect my decision. So I made it a goal to reach a position so high that my parents had to admit that they were wrong in how they treated me. A few years ago, that became my goal, and I've been working very hard towards it. As I already mentioned, I'm great at my job and I love working, so things were looking good for me. My previous boss, Jeff, was really good to me, and with his help, I was sure I was going to get promoted in a few years. The promotion I was gunning for was going to put me in a position where I could tell my parents that they were wrong, and I deserved that promotion too. There's nobody in the building that works harder than me. But before Jeff could recommend me, he did something, so stupid. So one day I came to work excited as Jeff had told me he would be talking to his boss that day. But I couldn't find him. So I got to work only to see Jeff come back to get his stuff from the office. He looked really sad and embarrassed, so I ran into him and asked him what was going on. All he could tell me was sorry that he did actually try, but he simply could not. He then left without answering any of my questions, and later in the day I found out that Jeff had been canned and been arrested because he was caught stealing company funds. I could not believe he would be so stupid as to do something like that. After that, I did not get to see him and could not contact him either. Even though I did have a need to like Jeff, I did actually care about him, as he was sort of a mentor to me. So I tried to talk to him to see how he was doing, but I never got to. After that, all I could do was hope for a good boss like Jeff, who would support and help me, but my hopes and dreams crashed and burned that day. Pat entered the office. Pat is short, we're the same height, but I'm also short, fat, and a bit on an okay-looking guy with a disgusting personality. The second he introduced himself, I knew that there was something wrong with this guy. He spoke to me personally and told me that he had found out that I was the most hard-working person here. He also said that he had not expected me to look this good, which was a bit weird, but I let it go. I thanked him, but as soon as he told me that I could always depend on him for anything in a creepy tone, I knew that this guy was bad news. But even though his face and tone were creepy, I decided to believe that he was an absolutely harmless guy. I had to, because no matter what type of person he was, I had to suck up to him, and I preferred to believe that he was not a predator. But I very quickly realized that I was wrong and that he was way more disgusting than I could have believed in the worst-case scenario. I knew he had eyes on me because he literally did, and he knew I wanted to move ahead. He then slowly started showing interest in me, and I tried to make it clear that I was not interested. He would indirectly ask me out and would always try to find ways to meet me outside. Well, I knew what he was trying to say to me. It was obvious, so I tried my best to just indirectly tell the dude that I was really, not interested. So, obviously, I did not want to tell him to his face, so every time he tried something, I immediately shot it down and showed him that I was not interested at all. Once he asked me if I was seeing somebody, I told him I was going on dates frequently just to get him off my back. But he did not seem to care. At this point, it was getting a little too much. And every time I would talk to him, he would do something weird. So I decided that enough was enough and was planning on talking to him and making everything clear. But before I could even do that, guys, Pat did something crazy. One normal day, he just called me in his office and asked a question. He told me how far I was willing to get ahead, and I asked him to openly say what he was trying to tell me. Then he openly told me that I would only be able to move ahead if I slept with him. Well, this made me mad, and I asked him how dare he think so little of me. I told him he may have met many women in his profession who would do anything to get ahead, but I'm not one of them, buddy. I have my dignity and ego, and no amount of money or height is enough to throw all that away. He just laughed and said everyone is like this at first, honey. Then he told me that he was just telling me in case I was getting the hint. If I wanted to move forward, I had to sleep with him. I told him I would rather jump from the Grand Canyon than ever touch him. After that, I left. There was a few weeks after that he did nothing and let me do my job. I thought about complaining, but I didn't really think that I could do anything to him. His position and power are way too much for me to be able to hurt him, and he knows that, and it's why he's being so open, and it's exactly why he did this 2 days ago. So, the day before yesterday, he called me into his office and asked me if I had changed my mind about him. I told him I'm never going to do something like that, as he's a jerk. And I have one major rule. I don't sleep with jerks. You know, I think at this point I had enough of the insulting that I did because he got angry. He said that he had given me enough time and freedom, but still I had chosen to make him angry. I told him that this is not how freedom works, but he wasn't listening. He then told me that he was tired of waiting for me to change my mind, so he gave me an ultimatum. To either sleep with him or get canned. He said that he'll make sure to blacklist me so that I will not be able to even get the same job anywhere. He's given me a month to decide, and I've recorded the conversation. Checkmate. But guys, at this point, I'm not sure what to do with it. I could use some help. So that's why I'm here on the interweb. I thought you guys might have some ideas on how to deal with this. What do I do now? Update number 1. Guys, it's been a few days. And if you're enjoying this story, show some love. Drop a like on this video and do not forget to subscribe. Well, it's been a few days and I've done something. Let me start this by thanking so many of you who left me advice and support. It really makes me feel like I'm not alone in this. Genuinely, thanks a lot, it really helps. And to the people who are blaming me for the situation, I'm currently showing my laptop a middle finger. That's for you. I hope your small brain can understand it. Because how did you read everything I wrote and come to the conclusion that I was the problem in the comment section? What do you mean I let Pat get comfortable enough for him to start saying these things? What did I do? When he was first throwing hints, I said, no, politely declining. He wasn't being super rude, so I couldn't just stand up and, slap him. That would have gotten me fired, so shame on you people, the so-called victim blamers. Sorry about the rant. Okay, now coming back to what happened. After my post, I spent a few days thinking about what I should do. I didn't want to rush into a decision immediately, but since I didn't have many options, it didn't take long to decide. I came very close to quitting because I felt like complaining would not work against a person like Pat. He's been with the company for many, many years and knows almost every higher up. At least that's what everyone around me told me when I asked around. But the support and love from you guys have given me the strength to fight back. I also think that I can't just give up my dreams by quitting like a coward. I think I should rather go down fighting. Also, somebody here said that it's not like he's just going to let me quit easily, so either way my career is doomed. So why not fight for what's right? Now, Out of all my senior bosses level, there's only one person I know. She's the boss of another department with whom I've done some major projects together. She's Natalie, and the last time I worked under her, she seemed cool. And the fact that she's a woman was a plus for me. I hadn't thought of Natalie before because I didn't know that she had gotten a promotion at this point. She's very close to Pat's level, so as soon as I found out about her promotion, I was sure. I was absolutely sure she could help me or at least do something about this. So I met her yesterday, but she was very, very busy, and she asked me to come to her today in the morning, which I did. She asked me how I was doing, and I told her that things were not great. She asked me what's going on. I told her everything. I told her how my boss was trying to blackmail me to sleep with him. She couldn't believe it. She asked me if it was the same Pat she had met a few times, and I told her it was. She became furious and asked me to give her a few days. She told me not to worry anymore and that she was going to personally make sure that Pat paid for everything he did. After that, I left and I even took a sick day and went home. I can't believe it. I never thought it would be this easy. I didn't even thank Natalie properly, but I guess I'll get a chance to do it once we take down this jerk. I'm so happy that I decided to fight. I'll let you guys know how this all works out. Update number 2. It's been 4 days and all I have is bad news. I can't even believe what happened. I think I was better off just leaving, but I'm not going to do it. So if you remember my last update, I ended it on a pretty happy note because I believed Natalie's help would be enough. I genuinely believed that she could do something and hoped that in a few days all my problems would go away with Pat. But I was wrong. I would love to believe that I cursed myself last time by saying I never thought it would be this easy. But I know the truth. This time it was not my bad luck. It was just me stupidly believing other people. Let me just tell you what happened. I spent 2 days waiting for Natalie to get back to me, and I was really excited when she called me into her office. She told me that after lunch, I, and some other seniors would go to Pat's office and have a little chat. She asked me not to worry anymore as she has handled everything. I was so happy and I thanked her, and she told me she didn't need it. Finally, lunch ended and she and some other guys came into our space, and we went into Pat's office to confront him. As soon as Natalie started talking, Pat seemed scared. She told him that she had gone over his head and now he was in some deep stuff. I was happy and everything was going well, but then Natalie just starts to hysterically laugh. Seeing her laugh, others laughed, and then Pat starts laughing too. Guys, the other seniors asked if we were done with the joke and left. Pat then asked Natalie why she couldn't control her laughter, and she just said that it was way too hilarious seeing me believe that she was actually going to do something, so she lost control. Pat even giggled as I asked Natalie, "What do you mean?" She then told me she knew Pat very well with a creepy smile. She said nobody I could reach would be able to help me at this point, and I should just give in. I told her how dare she say that to me, as a fellow woman herself. And she said this is a business. As women, we should be able to do anything to get ahead. Well, then something hit me. I'd never doubted the fact that Natalie had been promoted to such a high post out of nowhere. You can say that I made the connection too late. I told her women like her disgust me, and she told me to get ready to stay at my level forever. Pat then looked at me and smiled and said that it was genuinely hilarious that I believed Natalie. I told him I was not going to give in to him and would rather quit. He then told me he was going to frame me and then blacklist me anyways. So even if I quit, I would never be able to use my experience to get a job in the same sector. He then told me to hurry up with my decision, and I left. It's been a day since then, and I still cannot believe that Natalie betrayed me like that. But I guess I should blame myself for trusting her. I should have known that it would be impossible to do something to a person like him. But at this point, I'm not going to give up. Well, 1, because I have recorded every conversation, including the one where Natalie and Pat revealed that they tricked me, and he gave me the ultimatum, and 2, I just discovered something I think I can use to get out of this. I'll let you know what I do with it. Update number 3. Hey guys, it's been a month since my last update, and I apologize for the delay. A lot of you are wondering what's going on. Well, a lot happened, so I'll just get into it. After the last time, I made a decision to first find Pat's family and tell his wife or something. This way I could cause him some real-life problems if I could not do anything in the office. At this point, it was clear to me that he was going to ruin my career because sleeping with him was not an option. So before he did that, I wanted to do something. So I begged a friend of mine who works at our company to help me find Pat's address and family. He first declined, but I begged and begged and begged, and in the end he had to do it. I thanked him dearly and left, and at this point my luck took a turn. There was a huge project given to our department, so Pat was really busy. Way too busy to think about the ultimatum, so I had a few weeks to do what I was planning to do. I found the house and was thinking of going in, but I was hesitating badly. While I was thinking, a woman in front of me slipped and almost fell into oncoming traffic. But I did manage to grab her. She was falling so fast that we both ended up on the ground, but not on the road. She thanked me and told me she slipped on something. She introduced herself as Veronica and told me I looked stressed. There was a cafe nearby, so she invited me to have a cup of joe. At that moment, there was a lot on my mind, so I was about to say no, but I wasn't prepared to walk into the house either, so I said yes. We ended up connecting really well and spoke for almost an hour. She was a bit older, but she was definitely a person who would be a good friend. I connected with her instantly, and then before she left, she told me something that shocked me. She said that she lived nearby, and when I asked her where, she showed me Pat's house. By this point, we had already exchanged contacts and became sort of friends, so I just let it go at that. I felt glad that I had not told her anything about my issue or where I work. I went home and made a new plan, something that could work even better, because now I knew that she had no clue about what Pat was doing behind her back. So, we spoke for a few weeks and became actually really good friends. I even met her a few times, and after that, I very discreetly dropped the fact that I worked at the same company as her husband. She immediately told me about her husband's position, and I told her that I was his subordinate. She was very surprised and said that I should come to dinner at their house and surprise her husband. That was even better than what I had planned, so I told her yes. Yesterday, I went to their place for dinner, and Pat arrived a little late. I can't exactly describe the face he made because it was a mix of horror, shock, and sadness. He immediately asked what's going on, and when Veronica explained that we had just become friends without knowing anything, he took a sigh of relief, but I wasn't going to let him sit easily. Then we started having dinner, and Veronica told me how we met and got here. After that, she asked me how her husband was in the office. I then looked at Pat and asked him if I should tell her how he acts. His face immediately became pale, and he laughed and said he wasn't too strict. When his wife looked away, he put his hands together and begged me not to do it. But I didn't stop. I kept showing him that it would only take me minutes to destroy his life by dropping hints nonstop. I kept mentioning words like office harassment, seniors using their power, and he kept changing the topic. After the dinner was done and his wife was a bit busy, Pat pulled me to the side and told me to please stop. He said he loved his wife and didn't want to lose her. I asked him, well, then, why he does things like he does. He begged me to just not tell his wife and promised me he would do anything. I told him I didn't need anything from him except for peace, so I asked him to leave me alone from now on. He promised, and I even had the recording, but before we could talk further, I heard his wife and we went inside. It's been a day after that, and I haven't seen him, as he didn't come in today. I don't trust his words, but now I have a way to control him. I'm not sure about it, though. I mean, what do you guys think I should do with this power? Final update. Prepare yourself. So, for about a week after my last update, everything was fine. Pat was not troubling me anymore, but he wasn't doing me any favors either. But it was way better than him trying to blackmail me into sleeping with him. But I also knew that this was only a temporary fix. Then, a few days later, his wife Veronica asked me to meet. I was a bit worried because I thought maybe Pat had fed her lies so that she would not believe me, but that was simply not the case. Veronica wanted to see me because she had accidentally discovered the truth. The night of the dinner, when I and Pat were talking on the side, Veronica had heard most of it, and she then, for the first time, went through her husband's phone and found a few texts talking about how he acts in the office. She then asked me to tell her the truth. I told her that as a friend, I would not have been able to hide it for very long. I told her everything and also mentioned that although it was not my intention to be friends with her, I was not tricking her or using her. She was happy to hear it, but she was crying over everything her husband had done to me. She kept apologizing, and I told her it's not her fault, but she kept saying, oh, yes, it is. She then gets angry and told me that Pat was not her husband anymore. A demon like him could not be the loving person she married. I told her that I had tried to speak up against him, but nothing happened. She then told me something that blew my mind. Turns out it was Veronica's connections to the company, as she had relatives and stuff that had made Pat so powerful. She was the reason he even had the job in the first place. Turns out she was from some big-name family, and she told me that they would never tolerate anything like this. After she confirmed that I had some proof, she got me in contact with her real higher-ups and her relatives. I told them what Pat was doing and how my seniors refused to listen, including Natalie, and they were so mad. They told me they were launching an internal investigation, and until that was complete, I don't have to come to the office. After that, Veronica asked if I was willing to go to her home. Turns out she wanted me to help pack up Pat's stuff so that she could kick him out. Guys, we went together, and I helped her throw all of his crap out, but I left before Pat came home. She told me later that he cried and begged her to listen to him, but she was done with him. She told him he deserved to go to hell, not her home. Over a week later, Pat and a dozen others, including Natalie and other seniors, and more, were found guilty. I was invited to see all of them getting charged and fired, and the cherry on top was that they were going to get blacklisted so badly that they would have trouble finding even small jobs in different sectors. When I reached there, everyone except Pat was about to cry as they were getting fired. Pat looked rough, so I asked him if things were okay at home, and he gets super angry and told me that he would get back at me for this, and I told him, oh no you won't. Natalie, with tears in her eyes, told me to save her, and I told her I had to, and I asked her the same thing. Then, guys, they all got fired. You know, the best thing that came out of this was, it's not even the revenge. After they were all kicked out of the office, I ended up getting the big promotion I worked so hard for. My super boss told me that I deserved that for the hard work I put in and for everything I went through. Also, there was a huge pay bump, a lot more than I would have ever gotten with a promotion. So I think you can say that things worked out in my favor. Veronica has just filed for divorce, and now that it's all over, I'm finally preparing myself to go to my parents and tell them everything I've done and where I'm at now. Hopefully they will be proud of me.